The rain fell softly on the old courtyard, the same courtyard where two brothers once ran barefoot, chasing each other with laughter that echoed through the walls. Back then, everything was simple. Back then, they were inseparable. Ayan, the elder brother, was calm and responsible. Bilal, younger by 5 years, was full of life, impulsive and warm-hearted. Their father often said, "You two are like two hands of the same body, different but incomplete without each other." But time has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. When their father passed away, he left behind a modest house, a small piece of land, and a lifetime of memories. What should have been a moment of unity became the beginning of a silent storm. At first, it was just discussions, calm, measured, respectful. "We'll divide it fairly," Ayan said. "Fairly, but what does that mean?" Bilal replied, his voice carrying a hint of unease. Days turned into arguments, arguments turned into accusations. "You always thought you deserved more," Bilal shouted one evening. "And you never understood responsibility," Ayan snapped back. The house that once held their laughter now echoed with anger. Relatives intervened, lawyers got involved, words were written on paper but wounds were carved into hearts. Eventually the property was divided, but so were they. They stopped speaking, festivals passed in silence, weddings came and went without invitations. Their children grew up as strangers, unaware of the love that once existed between their fathers. Years turned into decades. Ayan grew older, quieter, carrying the weight of pride and regret. Bilal, too, aged with a heaviness in his heart he never spoke of. Sometimes, late at night, Ayan would walk past the old courtyard and remember Bilal's laughter. He would pause but never knock. Bilal, on the other side of the city, would often take out an old photograph. The two of them as boys, arms around each other, smiling without a care in the world. He would stare at it for hours, then quietly put it away. Neither of them ever made the first move, because sometimes ego speaks louder than love. One winter morning, Ayan fell seriously ill. The doctor said his time was limited. Lying on his bed, weak and fading, he whispered to his son, "Bring Bilal, I want to see my brother." It was the first time in years he had spoken his name. When the message reached Bilal, his hands trembled. For a moment he just stood there, frozen between the past and the present. Then, without a word, he left. The journey felt longer than it ever had. Every step carried years of silence, regret, and unspoken love. When Bilal finally entered the room, he saw Ayan, frail, pale, and barely recognizable. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ayan slowly turned his head and their eyes met. In that instant, all the anger, all the arguments, all the years of distance, they shattered. "Ayan," Bilal's voice broke. Ayan tried to speak, but tears filled his eyes before words could. Bilal rushed forward and held his brother's hand, the same hand he had once held as a child while crossing streets. I'm here," Bilal whispered, crying uncontrollably. Ayan's lips trembled as he finally spoke. "I missed you." Those 3 words carried decades of pain. "I was wrong," Ayan said, struggling to breathe. "That house, that land, it was never worth losing you." Bilal shook his head, tears falling endlessly. "No, I was wrong too. I chose anger over you, over us." They both wept like children who had finally found each other after being lost for years. "I wish we had more time," Bilal said softly. Ayan gave a faint smile. "We had a lifetime, we just didn't use it." Silence filled the room, but this time it wasn't heavy, it was healing. Ayan tightened his grip on Bilal's hand as if afraid to lose him again. "Promise me," Ayan whispered, "don't let our children live like we did." Bilal nodded through tears. "I promise." Moments later, Ayan's grip slowly loosened, and then it was gone. At the funeral, Bilal stood beside his brother's grave, unable to move. The crowd slowly disappeared, but he remained. He knelt down, placed his hand on the soil, and whispered, "We could have had everything, but we lost it over nothing." The rain began to fall again, just like it had years ago. But this time there was no laughter in the courtyard, only regret, and a love that had returned far too late.